Hello people. Hello internet. How are you? So good morning if you are anywhere other than Eastern time, which is where I'm at. It's a little afternoon here for me. Hello. Ivana is here, my good friend. Let me see if I can start highlighting messages, which I should be able to in a bit. Alright, yeah. Heyo, Ivana. So, yeah, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're joining us. I'm Sam Basu, I'm a dev advocate at Progress Software. Today is going to be a different type of a stream. Well, it's going to be still fun. A lot of live coding. Hey, Seraphat is here with the chickens. The chickens are here. They're just so cute. Like, we might just have to stop eating chickens. They're just too cute. But yeah, welcome folks. I had a quick lunch because we did a webinar, just an hour-long webinar. Hey, Bco9, if I'm saying that right. Yeah, morning. Let's see, why am I not seeing messages that I can highlight? Give me a second. Okay, maybe it's just like cached, so I can start highlighting things as we move along, hopefully. Yeah, thanks for coming back in. I want to ask you, like, if anyone is, or if anyone was on the webinar. We just had a 1-hour webinar on all the desktop and the mobile stuff for .NET devs that we had in the Telerik R3 release. That was an hour long, and then I took a 10-15 minute break and we are back. So what did you have for lunch, if it was lunchtime for you, like me on the East Coast? Mine was sad. It was just some leftover pasta from the night before, but it'll do for 10 minutes. Okay, so you're looking at my desktop. That is not my car, as I have said many a times, because every time you look at the desktop, yeah, you feel like that's mine, but it's not. It's nobody's yet. This is the Audi e-tron that's coming next year. Iron Man had used it in the last Avengers game. Alright, so we have 2 hours, so we can be a little more relaxed and dive into all the things we talked about. So let's bring up where we left off. Yeah, let me go to this blog post. So we had a huge release for R3. This went out mid-September, and there were lots and lots of things in it. It was probably one of the biggest releases we have had in a while. And there was lots of things for Telerik, which was all the web stuff to start off. That's what we did in the start of the week, and then we did Kendo UI for the last 2 days. And today, Thursday and Friday, I'm back to .NET. Today I'm going to talk about all of the mobile and desktop stuff. And tomorrow I have 2 more guests joining me to talk about reporting, JustMock, and testing. So that should be fun. Okay, let's see if my messages are back. No, I'm not seeing the messages that I can highlight for some reason, but that's fine. Will do. You all see the chat room. So let's dive in. So we looked at Xamarin. I know a lot of folks wanted to see Blazor, so I might start there. We looked at WPF and WinForms, but one thing we did not get a chance to look into is WinUI, and I might show you a little bit of that. And this, all the other stuff like reporting, report server, test studio, dev edition, JustMock, that's what we'll cover tomorrow. So let's start with Xamarin. We can slow down a little bit. I've been compared to like an auctioneer when we do the webinars, because there's just like so much stuff we are trying to cover in an hour. Hopefully here we can slow down and actually see these things working. Okay, so I'm going to keep this open just so we have an idea of all the things we are trying to cover here. So if I go look at the release blog post here for Xamarin, you'll see we did a bunch of things, which I showed you. Combo box, we did the rich text editor, which is wonderful. We did the calendar views, we did search in PDF. So all of that, I didn't get to step through some of the code, so which I can do. But let's start here. Let's start with Blazor, because everyone wants to see more Blazor, apparently. It's eating the world. Hello, Speeder Girl. Hello, that's my good friend Alyssa. Good to see you. Okay, so since I have Speeder Girl, so I might just want to cater to the web audience first and leave some of the .NET for slightly later on. So let's start with this one here, okay? And see how this is working. Actually, this is the link I wanted to pull up, so might as well start here. Okay, so this is still experimental, and this has implications for .NET MAUI when it comes out. And right now we are able to use Blazor for building web applications, obviously, with C# front and back, and we are able to do WebAssembly, but this is not WebAssembly. Hello, Ronnie Mahumba. Hello, sir, or madam, I don't know, or they. Thank you for joining. So let's kind of dive into what Blazor mobile bindings are really quick, and then what they can do for you, and where we can spin up our own UI. So this is the page from Microsoft. Hasn't really changed a whole lot in the last few months. You can see that you are writing Blazor syntax, and then behind the scenes you're writing some code which is C#, and you're able to fire up a native mobile app. So let's get started, and I'm going to bring in our Telerik bits to do that. So let's go into this one here. So these are the docs for our stuff, and we walk you through like how to get started. But let's actually do this because it's fun to see how we wire things up. So I'm going to start here. You need .NET Core 3.1, you need VS or VS for Mac, and you need hybrid apps. You need a different thing. So let's start with this project template, which I don't think I have because this is actually a new machine for me. So let's make my terminal nice and big so you can all read. All right. Maybe not that big. There you go. All right. So if I do .NET, you see that I have .NET CLI installed. Hey, good morning, Coucho97. Good morning from Australia. Yes, good morning. Okay, finally I'm able to select messages that I was missing. There, now I can see messages from users like you, so thank you for tuning in. Yeah, so I have .NET, and if I do a .NET new, you will see all the templates that I have installed. Oh, and it does look like I have experimental mobile Blazor bindings. If you don't see this template, like it's right here, go ahead and install that template pack, and then you'll have it. So it's called mobile Blazor bindings, and you can also do hybrid apps. But who wants to do hybrid apps when you can build native apps, right? But I mean, I'm not saying bad things about hybrid. They are great for line of business apps. But let's talk about native apps, because those are the ones that work on Xamarin, and those are the ones where we can light up our user or our UI. Okay, so I have that. So let me hang on. Where am I? I have a folder called CLI projects where I like to keep my stuff. So let's go over there, and I'm going to do .NET new. What was it called? Mobile Blazor bindings. Yep. All right. No, actually, let me make a folder first, so that way. Let's call this Telerik R3 Blazor bindings, and we are going to go into that Telerik bindings. No, if I can just type that. No, I spelled it wrong. What did I do? Telerik R3 Blazor. That's what I did. What did I do? What? That is the name of it. Hey, Ivan, all the way from Australia. Yeah. Beacon9 Telerik. Oh, I spelled Telerik wrong. Damn it. Yeah. Thank you. What would I do without you, chat room? All right. R3 Blazor bindings. Is that right? Yes, thank you. All right, now I can do .NET new mobile Blazor bindings. And since we're already there, we can let it just spin up that project right there. Yeah, 100 points. Thank you. Blazor Docta is here. Hello. Yeah, you're going to see how bad I type all through, but at least we are in. Okay, I think that's all we need just for the project template to be created. So what it should have done is made me a template. That is sitting right here, CLI projects. I went and called it Telerik R3 Blazor Bindings. So I'm just going to double click and open up the Visual Studio solution, because it does drop a Visual Studio solution in here. You don't have to use the build. I mean, you can still do like .NET build type stuff, but since I already have Visual Studio, I'm going to bail out of that. All right, I am a big iOS fan, so what I'm going to do is make this guy the startup project. And I'm not sure if I have all of the Android things, but I'm not writing any platform specific code, so it doesn't really matter what it is. I might just go ahead and remove that, delete from disk. Yes, because I'll do everything in the shared project. And if this is small, I will make it bigger. There you go. And then I can zoom in as well. So for this one, I think what we need to do is make sure the configurations are good. So that's my iOS project. I want it to build, not on the phone, but I want it to build here on the simulator. Okay, and that's it. So at this point, if I do a build, this should be just what we got from the boilerplate code, right? I haven't changed anything in here. So while that's building, we're going to go look at our docs here. So you're going to go get the Nougat package, the Blazor Nougat package, and then we're going to start importing and firing up some stuff. All right, that built. So let's give it a run. No, I don't want iPod Touch. No, that looks really sad. I'm not, again, saying bad things about the iPod Touch, but I want my iPhone. I could have just changed it right here. iPhone Pro Max running iOS 14. That's the way to go. There you go. So it's building. It knows that I'm on a Mac. It knows how to go do the build in Xcode and come back with a build. And now it's a native app. The formatting looks way off. That's fine, but I can increment. So this is the Blazor mobile bindings app. Doesn't have anything else, but it's running C# without the WebAssembly, and this all of the UI is obviously Xamarin Forms. All right, so now we're going to do the fun stuff. We are going to do manage Nougat resource packages, and instead of the Nougat feed, I'm going to go to the Telerik feed. This, by the way, folks, you need to just set it up one time. It is pointed to, I can show you this real quick. Oh wait, I can't apparently unless I close that down. So this is sitting right here in my Nougat sources. See that Telerik feed? So this is pointed to nougat.telerik.com/nougat. So get that done. It's going to ask you for your credentials one time, and that's it. Now let's go ahead and get the Telerik feed, and I'm going to do Xamarin. If I can again type Xamarin. All right, so this is the full XAML framework, right? But that's not what we're doing. We're doing Blazor. So this is the one that you want to get, because this has the wrappers, so we can expose the properties and the event handlers of the native Xamarin Forms or native iOS and native Android controls through Blazor. So that's the one you want to get. It has some dependencies on Microsoft Mobile Blazor Bindings, which I think that should be good. So let's go ahead and add that package. And that's good. I'm going to go ahead and add that to iOS as well. All right, find that again and add. All right, so we now have our references. Now that's really all that we will do in iOS. That's all the platform specific stuff we need. Now let's open up imports.crazy. This is where stuff begins. I'm going to make maybe the fonts a little bigger so you can follow. All right, so this is all the stuff that Microsoft throws in out of the box. Xamarin Essentials, obviously we need. Xamarin Forms we need, because we are writing on top of all of that stuff. So now we're going to add some Telerik bits to it. and I might just get all of it together. You obviously don't want to get all of it if you are using only one control. Just get the one that you need. But here I will just get the primitives, which gives us some of the UI, the input controls, and then the common is what drives a lot of the common stuff, and then data controls control the data viz stuff. So I'm just slapping them all together. Alright, that's it. So now if I go into the busy indicator, these are the things we can light up, and again you're going to see me write Blazor, but it is absolutely native. So these are the animation types that we get to control with the animation type property, and that's it. So I want to take that red busy indicator, but before that I want to wipe away some of the things that it did for us. This is the hello world, and what it does here in apps.cs, this is the thing that you see that's different between a Blazor mobile bindings project versus a Xamarin project, right? It is still Xamarin and Mono under the covers, but how the app is bootstrapped is different. This is not using like main page. Hey, I see some follows going on. Thank you. But I am not doing the main page. Here's the first page. Instead, this is using more of the ASP.NET pipeline type setup. This is services that you want to hook up through DI, and this one's not doing anything. It one's just saying, hey, content page, that's your first page, and everything is a component, right? So everything is a Blazor component. Kind of looks like React, and that hello world is the component that we're loading up. So that's all here. Let's wipe out this stuff which we don't need, and this stack layout, I kind of don't like that stack layout. I had done a different thing with some padding. Let me see what those exact values may be. Let's see if I can open up this page. Yeah, let's open it up in Sublime. Thickness 20. No, that's not kind of what I want. Let's see, what else did we do? Blazor Bindings, that's the project we're looking at. Blazor Mobile. I just want to get the right margin so it doesn't look so awkward. Yeah, this one's using 40. Okay, well, we'll go with that. I thought I'd done something where it looked much better, but that's fine. Alright, back to Visual Studio. So we'll just make it, was it just that thickness 40? Okay, I don't know what I was chasing. Alright, so we got that stack layout, so now we can start stacking things inside, and I'm going to copy this entire red busy indicator. Right, so now this is Blazor. This is Blazor mobile bindings. This is not Xaml, although you see some of the properties look like Xaml, but if I'm using those primitives, then I don't have to keep using that. So this one here is using animation type 2, color is blue, and Visual Studio is complaining very loudly. So let's see if we can put that to rest with a build. It's like shouting in my face with the wiggly underlighting. Okay, so that built and the squigglies went away. So let me fire this up now. So like I said, this is for .NET MAUI. This is like providing additional ways. So you see that it's looking awkward because I could not get the stack layout thing right, but I'll work on it. So that's an animation type, that's a busy indicator. That is actually a native iOS control that you're seeing wrapped up through Xamarin Forms and wrapped up through Blazor. What you don't see here is a little bit of code that's in that Nougat package that we brought in, like this one here. This Nougat package here, this Telerik UI for Xamarin Blazor, that has the wrappers, so we know exactly how to render the properties and the event handlers to get you that. So that's cool that it's working. What other animation types we can do? Let's go look at. I like this one here, animation 6. So if we just change this to 6, that should change. And So you do get IntelliSense from Visual Studio, sometimes not as well as you think, but that's not on just anybody yet because it's all experimental. So let's go ahead and run this again. And simulator is up. Oh, this looks very faded. It is there. I should probably just go back to something a little more prominent. Red is fine. Alright, so we have the red busy indicator working, right? So, and you can toggle these properties on and off very nicely. Let me see if we have this is busy flag is the one that controls it. So we can toggle the is busy property with a flag. Let's do that with a button actually. So this is the Xamarin Forms wrapper to give you a button. So I'm just going to grab a rad button here. Right, so we have a stack layout, and inside of it we can do a rad button here. We can say toggle busy indicator. Okay. And yeah, it can all be center aligned. So yeah, let's do that, and let's might as well give it like a little border. I like borders. So this one here gives you just a little bit of cornering, which is nice. And then we're going to put the red button inside. Oops, too much. Hang on, go away. There. Okay. So that's it, and if I run this again, we should see the border and the button show up under the busy indicator. Still waiting on you, Visual Studio. There you go. Okay, so you see, again, these are native controls, so you're just writing some Blazor to get around that. So it's not doing anything yet. This is looking like an iOS button. Had I pulled this up in Android, it'll look more like a button, because the iOS button by default has that fluent style, I think. No, it's the Cupertino style, I think, by default. So let's make it actually do something, right? Toggle that is busy thing. So what is that flag property called? I might look up some code to see what that thing was called. If I can do Telerik Blazor Bindings, maybe. Telerik UI Razor. Okay, so it was called the is busy indicator, right? So what we want to do is change the is busy flag. I can copy this little bit of code. So this being Blazor, we can do stuff like this right here, right? Or I can move this off to a separate file and have some code behind. All right. Oh, chat room, don't do that stuff. All right, I'm going to ignore that for now, and then we'll come back. So that's my code. So let's move this off a little bit more. So there. Now that still looks a little odd. Oh, I moved it too much out. Come back over. That looks better. And then this whole thing, come back over. This thing is that. And this thing can go back. That looks better. Okay, so what we're doing here is on the initialized, we are setting up a Boolean property called is busy indicator busy. right? And we are doing getter and setters. Again, like I said, this can totally be written in a code behind file. And then the change is busy is just a method that flips that, right? So here, so instead of doing the is busy here, we are going to make that, instead of hard coding that, we are going to give that the is busy indicator busy. It sounds funny, but is the busy indicator busy? Because the point of this is you're going to use that busy indicator when your app is doing something, right? You're fetching data, or you're busy, and that's when you want the busy indicator to show, because that is busy flag is going to be true. And the point is you can lay this upon on any other container control, like a list view or a grid, and then once you have data, once you're done with that operation, you just flip the flag. So the busy indicator goes away and you see the content underneath, which you have populated by now. So that's what that is busy flag does. So what we're going to do is flip that flag and make that thing based on this. So right now this is going to start out being true, and it's going to stay until this button comes in, and what is it called? Clicked? Is it at clicked? No. I thought there was a clicked property. Let's see. IntelliSense. What is it called? What is it called? I don't see it. Did I do that in the other app? Let's see. On click. Okay. Yeah. All right. On. There you go. On click. So what I want to do is on click. I want to fire up this change is busy. Right. So that's going to make it toggle that. Nope. No, not that. Change is busy. On. Yes, thank you, Gaucho. 1972. Do I need that parameter? I don't think I do. Okay, that's it. So does this build? It does build, and now we can go ahead and run this. All right, ready? Toggle, gone, toggle, back, toggle, gone, toggle, back. Right? Super simple, but you get the point. So what you get with Blazor mobile bindings is this Blazor syntax. So if I had made like another component for the rad busy indicator, if I didn't want to just like slap it on the page itself, let's say you have a grid and you have to have a different component, then you have parameters that you can pass values back and forth into those parameters. That makes it real nice. And I can actually show you how that works real quick. So let me see. Maybe this was the project I was talking about. Yeah. So this is where you will see what I did. This was right before the release where we are still playing around. So here I'm not using the Blazor wrappers. I'm using the full Blazor or full Xamarin controls just to kind of showcase what it is that we're doing under the covers. So here in the imports, there's nothing Telerik specific, right? And in the app CS does nothing different. You get hello world. In here, I'm using a rad calendar and I'm using a rad numeric input. Let me pull back my music a little bit. Hang on a second. Just stay ambient, will you? All right. So in here, you see that rad numeric input. That is now a separate component, right? And that is sitting right here. So what's in here is exactly what Microsoft recommends you do. So if I go look at the docs, right? So in terms of like user interface, take a look at like the things they have. I thought they had a list right here. So this is about like 24 or so controls that's right there. So all of these are Xamarin Forms controls, and you have Blazor wrappers over those controls, so you can render them using Blazor's and Razor syntax. And you have the component model, you have the at syntax to write your code. So all of this is done. So you're not like strapped from in terms of like the UI components that you have access to from Xamarin Forms. So quite a bit of it is out there. And then they talk about like how can you do it for your custom components. So if you are writing your own custom components, this is what you'll have to do, and we have just done the work for you if you want to use Telerik stuff. So wrapping Xamarin Forms controls, you have to have a Razor file that inherits from that native control component base, and then you have to have event handlers. So and this is a great example, this pancake view component. This is open source, and this is a great example of how you can take like a custom component and make it work. Ooh, green screen, that's not good. Yeah. This is because I'm sharing my desktop, and once in a while it needs a little kick and it loses the signal. There, I'm back. Okay, so what we did here was do exactly that. So if you look at my code here, I am inheriting this off the view, and notice the view here is not a Xamarin Forms view, it's actually a Blazor Bindings element view, so it already has the wrappers in it. So here I wanted to use our numeric input, which is just a stepper control, and here they show you like exactly what you have to do in that from that pancake example. That's my static class. I have to have these like registries that you have to update. This one saying this is the control that we are about to do, use that renderer of the type Telerik Xamarin Forms input. And then in here, that's a property that we want to expose. So when that property is being set from Blazor, what you would really like to do is set the corresponding property that is under the covers in that Xamarin Forms project, right? So that's what it is. So name of property step. So we're using a little bit of reflection to find out what exactly was the property. And then there's a handler here. Some of this is just boilerplate code based on what they wanted us to do, and then on the this numeric UI, that's the UI that I want to write a wrapper on, and I provided a step property, and I'm setting the attribute value on that step property. So when you set the step property of that Blazor wrapper control, you're essentially setting the step property of the Xamarin Forms control, right? So that's what you have to do. This is a little bit of boilerplate code, and this is exactly what you have to do for every control that you want to provide a wrapper for. So the properties and all the event handlers need to be brought up into Blazor land so you can do that. So with that in place, we can write the step property. Now this rad numeric input is a Razor component, and we can simply set the step property of that. This one here is being set to 20. So if I go ahead and run this, you shall see if I can bring my simulator back up. No, no, no. Don't give me the iPod Touch. That makes me sad. Sorry. Let's flip it to this. I'm not complaining about iPod Touch as a whole. As kiddos growing up, that's kind of a good starter device to give your kids. But when you want your app to run on a simulator, might as well have the full simulator, full power. Okay. So this is still using the trial, so you'll get that. But what you see is the calendar, right? So that is the calendar view, the rad calendar. I didn't do anything else, like there are no properties exposed. But on the rad numeric input, which is this guy, it's got that stepper property. So I can do plus, you see that? It's incrementing by 20, right? And I can change that stepper property, and it will increment by whatever it is that you want, right? So this is kind of like a behind the scenes view of what it takes to write a Blazor mobile binding, and that's a wrapper over Xamarin Forms controls or native controls that you might have, but you don't have to do this stuff. This is why we built the wrappers. So you can see, like if I go back to our controls, right now you have how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and this list is going to keep on growing, right? So that's Blazor mobile bindings. I think it's a lot of fun, especially if you come from an ASP.NET background, and if you just want to write Blazor and you are not used to Xamarin or XAML and C#, then this is an option. You don't have to write XAML, because XAML does get a little verbose sometimes. I'm old, I'm used to it, but you don't have to. So this is a great easy way of doing that. So that was just a basic example, but let me show you one more thing if I can. Let me close that. So if you go out in here, and if you look around, just like starting from the product pages, and when we get when you hit the big download button here, no, I lost that page, so let me pull that up again. So when you download this thing, we give you a bunch of different things. This one here, another thing we give you is a project called Sdk Browser, which is a little more advanced in terms of the things you get out of the box. So let's go look at that. Where would that be? It's called Sdk Browser. All right, so this one here is also a Blazor mobile bindings project, right? But it's done, like this is done by the engineering team, so it's a little more polished, and it has all the code that you need to play around with it. So first up, you'll see that app.cs is using app host and plugging in components. Here, the one component is the examples view. And since we are running on top of Xamarin, we can still use the shell. And this is the Xamarin Forms shell, which gives us the navigation, gives us the routing and all that stuff. So here we are switching up the routes based on which button you click on in the shell, and that's it, right? Yeah, so we'll go to async example.name, and we're switching up the route, like which control you go to. Then we can start looking into each of these components and see how they work. See the height request, width request properties, these relate to one-on-one to like XAML properties. So if you have never done XAML, this might look a little different from you, but you don't have to like know everything. You can start tweaking properties as you need to once you start building things out. So let me go ahead and run this. And this one here is showing you that thing, like rad busy indicator has a content property. So essentially you put this inside of a placeholder, and when you toggle that is busy flag, that's the label you should see, which we can look at. So this is the demo where, let me move it out of, so it's not sitting right on top of my head. How about that? Okay, so if I go look at the busy indicator now, you see that, right? That's the animation type. So let's stop this for a second, and we're going to toggle this to false. And now if I flip this up again, that's what we did with the toggle with the button, but now I'm just like hard coding it to show you like that content view is the one that you're going to see. And busy indicator, you see that? That's the label that you see, which is like this label, because that is busy is false, so it knows to show the content. So if you are doing this for your app, wherever you're doing something something that's heavy, let me flip it back because I'm going to scratch my head to figure out why it's not showing. This is what you see because you put the rad busy indicator and then all of the content which can have a grid, a stack layout, however you're rendering all of the content for the page that you're on, you put that on here. So when you flip the is busy flag, your content just shows up. So the other things we did, border, this should really not be anything special. It's just the border and you get to control the radius, whatever is inside of it. This is the checkbox. Let me keep this running so I see it as we look through. So this is going to use the same thing that we just did with the toggle. So that's the checkbox, right? So it's false, and then you toggle that to true. So what it's doing here is using that is checked property of that checkbox and setting that to is checked, which is essentially just a boolean here, and you get to do whatever you want on the checked change. Is what we are doing. We are flipping it to checked versus unchecked. What else? Oh, DataGrid. This is new, right? So we did two new things. There's the AutoCompleteView, which is this one here, and I see more follows going around from Red Phoenix. Thank you for the follows. So this one here is I don't know what you see the no result found right away. Give me some results. What can I search for? Yeah, there you go. So this is the autocomplete view. You get to control the template as to how the things look like, and this can have like multiple selections as well if that's what you want to allow. So let me go look at that autocomplete view code. That's the Razor. So this is the active source. This is the list that it's binding on. Obviously, this list will be something that you bring in, whatever is your object model. Item source is just that. So it's just a simple property, and you set that to an object collection. And in this case, it's just a list of strings, so it's perfect. If you bind this to a more complex object, then you'll have to give us like a path, like the text path, like out of, like, let's say a customer object, a collection of customer object that you bind it to, like maybe it's the customer name that you want to search on. So you would have to give us that, and then watermark and all of the things that you expect from a autocomplete view. It's right there, right? Let's look at the key features. What's in here? Oh, token support. This one, I think. So if I do J, oh, I get all of these things. That's a different view, by the way, so it's not driven by this list. So if I do J again, so now you see these tokens, right? So let's go look at that code. That's in this key features. This one here is bound to the first one. See, now the text search path comes in. This is the one where we are specifying a text property of that. So these are all the names of people. The client. What is the client? Well, the client is just a Poco object. Yeah, so the client just has a name, so we are going off that name property essentially. So these are the list of all the clients, and when we bind to the name path property of it. And let's see, does it have, okay, so suggestion display mode is tokens, so when you're now showing tokens, so it's multiple selections. What else? And this one has filtering. This one has a watermark, has the enter name, clear button. So if I do J, oh, it has the clear button that shows up, which normally would not if you didn't do it. Show hide suggestion view. I don't know what that feature does. No results found. Okay. Oh, maybe it toggles whether the suggestion view is available, like the way it was showing up here as compared to here. So again, it's more features for the autocomplete. But the data grid is the one that I want to look at real quick. This one here is a grid, right? And what is it doing here? If I go into the data grid Razor page, now my music went too low on me. Chat room, you're being quiet. Tell me what you want to see, and I'm happy to code. I'm happy to walk through code, and I'm happy to see all of these features light up. All right, so this is a grid, right? Now this grid, let me see. That's my observable collections. Okay, so now this grid, by the way, this is the Blazor Bindings grid. This is not our grid. A Gantt chart and chickens. Okay. All right, Oh, I got chickens. I can show you chickens all day. You want to see chickens? Let's see. What type of chicken do you want? Yeah, I got chickens. I even got chicken sounds. Or clucking sound. This chicken. There you go. Okay, charts. I'll get to charts. Yeah. I'll get to charts. But this one here is the grid. Okay, let me turn it off. Folks might tune in and say, what is going on? Why is there a chicken dancing on screen? Okay, so in here we have this grid is just the stack layout grid. This is just the default grid when it comes to the mobile Blazor bindings. It's how you lay out your control. But then inside of it, that's our grid, right? And what we're doing here is just setting it to clubs in this particular case. Oh no, we're looking at the getting started first. So this one here is, let's see, write data grid, all it's doing is item source that. There's no other code, right? So literally the item source is an observable collection of data, and the data is country and capital. So that's what you see here. So you get the country and the capital. Notice how we did not have to set the columns. Yeah, thanks. Our teammates are getting excited with chickens. So the grid is smart enough, obviously, to know that I have to show this collection of objects, and these are the properties. So I'm just going to new up 2 columns that show you that. But it can actually let you decide if you wanted to. So I think if we head over to the columns thing here, this one has like the name, stadium capacity, and champion. Oh, we are going into like UK soccer fans here. I used to follow the Champions League. No, not so much anymore. I don't know if it's happening as much this year, but I am a soccer fan, so maybe I should get back into it. So this one here, it's going off, I think, club.cs. So this one, let's see, it's got a name, date, time of established, stadium capacity, so just a plain old C# POCO object. And this is the, yep, that's the initializer, so we can set those properties accordingly. And we have some updates going on when you set things, nothing out of the ordinary here. That's my list of countries, and that's it. And then the data probably comes from here. No, that's just the country view. All right, so let's look at the columns view. Where are we setting the data? Oh, it's right here. So that's where we're initializing each of the clubs, and we're getting it like date and time for when it was established, and so on. But in this one here, what I'm trying to show you is this data grid does have the item source of clubs. Where's my music going every time? Come back, give me some music. There you go. All right, ambient music, that's good for coding. So here we get to decide on the columns, right? We are binding each column type here specifically to numeric, boolean, date, time, and we get to show and hide those things as need be. So in here, these are the filtering. Wait a second, data grid, columns. Are there more columns I'm not seeing? Okay, so we see stadium capacity champion, okay. If I hide that, now how do I do things, comment things out in Blazor? Can I do that? Yes, I can. Okay, so that's just the way of commenting. Since this is Blazor, so I'm used to Xamarin Forms and I'm used to Xaml, so I do exclamation dash and then close it. But since this is Blazor, it knows that @ is the server-side code. In this case, there's no server, but that's how you comment things out. What was it? Champion. So if I take those off, will it show these other things? Established, country, time. Okay, let's try. So turn that off and run again. Okay, my good friend TJ is here. We talked about chickens, Sarah. Give me a minute, I'll go into Gantt Charts. And our good friend TJ is here. He ran the Kinder React webinar and the subsequent Twitch stream. Yeah, so that's the Blazor way of doing it. @ is just a server-side thing. To be fair, commenting syntax in JSX React is weird too. Yeah, I hear you. Okay, so with that, we can come down here and see what we did. Okay, so now you see, I think it just like ran out of space. It is there. It's you just can't see it. Like I have to like swipe right to see it. Maybe. Oh, there it is. There it is. So it's all here, and we just took out the stadium capacity. So literally you get to choose the type of column it is, and then that controls like the type of like filtering you want to use. So let's see. For the country, is equal grouping options. Okay, what country did we have? Let's try some filtering. Oop, went away. Let's see. Only show me British clubs, right? So if we did is equal to, Huh, that's not good. Why is it showing me a numeric input? Hang on. So I can do and or. This one is showing me the numeric input. So I did something wrong with the column type. Let's go back again. Date established, what would that do? Okay, so now see, this one here is smart enough to realize that like, that's a time, right? So it lets me choose whatever, oh, and it pops up the calendar because obviously it knows what type of thing it is. So that's nice, but did I do something wrong with the country? Let's see. Why is it not smart enough to get me the country? It is, oh, I made it a picker column. Maybe that's why. Yeah, let me change it. Instead of that, if I do a DataGrid text column, yeah, then it can still be bound to that item source is that country, yeah. So this gives you like granular control over like how you want to render out the controls on the columns in the grid if you wanted to. Or if you just don't care, just give it the item source and it'll do its thing. Ooh, I really hurt it badly. What did I do? Property name is country, header text is that. Is the country... Countries is... if I look at the clubs, countries is a text. Yeah, it's a string. No, it's countries. Hang on. Country. Okay, list of countries. Oh, it's a list of strings still. So that should take it. Alright. I apparently made it very angry by switching that. I'm not sure. If I so that's a date time. This is a column, time column. It knows that. Alright, so let's bring back the Boolean flag. So is it smart enough to know that it's the Boolean thing that we want to show? Alright, columns. So champion or not, that's a question mark. And now, okay, so false or true. So if I do true, done, filter. Okay, so it looks like Manchester United is the only one that's ever been a champion. That's going to hurt the feelings of the other teams, but you get that little filter sign that says, hey, this is a filtered list. So a data grid, folks, like what you would expect. You can bind it to whatever you want, and it is easy to work with a complex object and bind things accordingly with the search path and so on. So you can do all of that not only from Xamarin, but also with Xamarin Forms and the wrappers with Blazor. So I think I've spent like almost an hour on Blazor. I'm ready to switch to some other fun stuff. Okay, Sarah had asked about Gantt Charts, so let's look at that real quick, and then we'll come back to maybe a little bit more Xamarin. All right, yeah, close that. And this is where I am going to fire up what drives a lot of my friends crazy that I would do that, and that's a VM, because why not? I get to have the best of Windows and Mac on the same machine. I have my fan going all throughout the day, but that's fine. That's the job of the processor to do its thing. All right. So let's make this bigger. There, now you can see it. Let me know in the Windows world if the font is too small, too big. Now I have my flipped over. You see that the mouse pointer goes from black to white. TJ Rantel, the Gantt Chart request was made in your honor. Oh, I see. Maybe I missed a little bit of action. Tell me what happened with the Gantt Charts for Kendo React. Okay, let's look up Gantt Charts. Maybe we'll do WPF, because this has plenty of charts. It's probably not even showing you all the controls here. Okay, there. Just look at the number of controls we have, right? That's a lot. because I mean this is very matured, so it's had the time to build all of the controls that we want. Gantt Charts. What are the charts? Data viz, chart view, Gantt view. Look, TJ, how beautiful charts look like on the desktop. I can't take it to the web, but hey, it's XAML and it works. So this has been around, Gantt charts in WPF, but I guess like since we are already talking about WPF, like what's new is how we can just switch this around. We have a new dark theme. That's nice. So everybody, am I the only one? Like I don't care about dark themes too much, okay? And I realize I'm the exception here because the rest of the world seems all gung-ho about dark themes on our phones, on like Mac OS desktop, Windows desktop. I don't care about it. I like my light theme, and I realize like it's probably more economical to not light up every pixel when you don't need to and just light up only the text in white. But I kind of like my white themes or my light themes. So you can switch around. You can see like these are the 3 new color palettes that you get with the new Office 2019 theme, and it's nice. It looks beautiful. What is nice is like I can look at code right here, so I don't need to go to Visual Studio. Everything that I need is right here. So let's take a look at some of this stuff. This one is using an observable collection of iGantt task. Right, I'm completely off the going off the beaten path here because we were asked to show Gantt charts. All right, so let's see. I can look at some XAML. So this is the data that's feeding it, and let's go look at XAML, and let's make that bigger. All right, so Rad Gantt view right there. So it's got a name that reflects what it is, and I'm not going to go into the properties. It's probably got dozens of properties. Like you can define the columns, you can define, let's see what else. Yeah, actually not much else. So it's defined all of those columns and done some member binding. This one's bound to the title, this one's a two-way binding, this one's bound to the end. So you have all of your data and then you bind it and you have your Gantt chart. What else do you want? It just works beautifully, it's performant, it works everywhere. You can theme it. And just for the Gantt chart itself, look at the type of things we can do. We can import from an MS project, which is kind of a classic use case for a Gantt chart. A lot of people run their projects in that waterfall Gantt chart way that lets you visualize things. Highlighting, scrolling performance, task planner. Oh, let's look at scrolling performance. What is that? Okay, load. All right. So which way do I scroll? Okay, well, that's not a ton of data. So, oh, okay, I see it. So it is a ton of data. No, and I have the green screen again. Sorry. Let me fix that. This, as I mentioned, is brought to you by our friends at Elgato. I actually spent some time with their support. I just could have just a bad video card. So we'll look into that more. So yeah, you have a Gantt chart, and this looks like this is bound to a lot. We have had these like fun demos over the years where we do UI virtualization all over the place. So when you bind our UI to like 100,000 records on the client side, which you should not, we still want to protect you so it doesn't slow down entirely and the whole app does not come crashing. We are careful, like as you are scrolling, we bind to the next 1,000 or whatever else that makes sense for that app. So we don't bind to the whole collection if we see that it's too big. So that's how it's virtualized. We always look ahead and look back a little bit. So you have your interactivity while being able to bind to a huge collection. So that's Gantt chart, right? Yeah, it just works. Let me show you. We looked at WPF, we looked at WinForms. Oh, I think the one that we did not have time in the webinar is to look at WinUI. So let me show you that. So let me close some of this stuff. All right. So let's look at what we are talking about here. So WinUI. WinUI is a library, and it's a way for us to, I think I had a slide, maybe it's a good way to pull that up. Go to docs. This one here. Well, I will pull up PowerPoint just for a second, just to make a point. I am not putting up PowerPoint on Twitch. That would be a crime. But what I want to show you is like one diagram, like what this is, right? That's what's going on. So you have UWP, right, which works great on across like every Windows device. But it is very much tied to Windows releases, Windows 10 releases, and now Windows 10 has been out for a while. We've had several releases go out, so we have to wait on the Windows updates before the UI stack can be updated, and that's not good. And you're always like too closely tied to the Windows UI stack. So WinUI is an attempt to separate that out, have an abstraction. So yeah, Keynote. PowerPoint, don't get me started on that. Alyssa here, sweeter girl, she loves Keynote, and I love PowerPoint. They're both great. Use whatever works for you. At least we have portability. We can open up one doc built in one with the other one, and vice versa. So whatever you grew up with, really, both of them work fine. So that's the thing we are using, and it's that abstraction we are looking for. So WinUI is meant to be the Windows UI stack for both UWP apps, so it runs on a HoloLens, runs on an Xbox or Surface Hub, but it also runs on top of WPF and WinForms. So that is the that's the modern Windows UI stack. Do I still have the right to highlight messages? Yeah. There you go. Keynote versus PowerPoint, fight it out. Hey, we had a good run with the web, where all our presentations were web-based, wasn't it? And there were some good sites. There was slides.com. There was some good stuff, but it's hard to replicate all the power of a desktop application on the web sometimes. So these things are there, and plus they make money. It's hard to monetize as much of the web as you can with a desktop application. Like the whole Microsoft 365 thing is just a gigantic business in terms of all the features. And like enterprises, they want to run Outlook, they want to run servers that have all our emails, so it makes sense to bundle it all, like have Teams that lets us collaborate, so it makes sense to have desktop suites that do everything. Yeah, TJ, let me know what happened with Gantt charts in your live stream. I'm curious now. All right, so that's WinUI, as we know. So this is not out yet, right? Like in fully baked version, we are anticipating that by like this November, when we have like .NET Conf, maybe we'll get WinUI as a like fully baked in version. But we don't have it yet, and it's out in preview too since July, and hopefully in November we get the final bits. But this is a lot of work, so we want to write that. So if you look at our stuff, and if I look at desktop components, you get WinForms and you get WPF, but you also get this guy, right? Well, UWP, if you want to stick to UWP and if you're happy with the Windows 10 support that you have and you are cool with it, just go with this, right? So this was completely open source UI for building Windows 10 apps, and you get I think 25 plus controls here. Data management. I actually do really love the UWP controls that we have, so I'll show you that real quick. Just take a look at this, and again, for Windows users, you don't have to go download anything. I'm on a VM here, this is Windows 10, so you can just go to the store and you can do a search for Telerik, right? And I can show you that, what you end up. So if I go to the store here and do a search, I think somebody in the webinar was asking this, and this is actually a really nice thing. So take a look at that. You don't have to install any of our UI. If you just want to play around with, those are all public apps. So I'm showing you the UWP app, but even the WPF and the WinForms apps are already out there, right? So these, like if you had shown me this like 2 years back, I'll be like, how are they in the App Store? Because that's WinForms and that's WPF. Those are Win32 apps, and my friends in the chat room, folks like Alyssa and TJ, they're going to say, what is Win32? Why are we talking about things that are old? but it runs your business. It runs a lot of desktop apps, so it's very much out there. And now we have learned that we can wrap Win32 applications and put it in the store, so you can get to play with the WPF and WinForms examples right from here. All right. I have two pointing devices, so I'll show you this. So this is my little MacBook pointer, and then I have a Windows mouse, and sometimes I grab the wrong one and I move the mouse pointer in the other machine. I have two machines here, so it's fun. And I have two keyboards, so sometimes I'm typing on the wrong one and I'm assuming things will show up in the other computer, which makes it fun. Okay, so go to the App Store, search for these things, take a look at some of the things here that are just beautiful. I am particularly fond of this guy. This is called the Hex View, and essentially these are cards, so they flip and they can show you whatever you want. Just such a beautiful UI. Then we have a bullet graph. Somebody had pointed out how nice bullet graphs are and how difficult they are to do by hand. So what it is just if you want to have a dashboard and if you want to show a lot of information but you don't have a lot of space, you kind of combine them into some radial gauges or linear gauges and some charts, and you just put it all together. It's a single control. This is not 4 UI controls, but there are like 4 different things that you can data bound collections that you can bind to. Yeah, it's super nice. What else? Rating control. I'm a big fan of this guy. I think you can go half based on your settings. This one doesn't let you, but I've seen like you can do half a star, like 1/4 a star. That's the kind of granularity you can have. So this is all here, and it's there for you to play around with all the UWP stuff if you're building Windows apps. So let's look at WinUI, because that's the thing we did not look at. So if I go out to our desktop UI again, in desktop you see that WinUI, this is still experimental, okay? Because like WinUI is not officially out yet. Is it going to be a thing? Absolutely. Just give it another month or so in November, hopefully, or if not, early next year, we should get WinUI out of the box and in all its glory. I mean, WinUI 2 was out, but that was just working over UWP. This is a bigger deal because this works on top of all of Windows UI, which includes WPF and Win32 applications. So we want to ride the wave. We want to make sure that if you are building modern Windows apps today, greenfield apps, you might have a good reason to go to WPF because that gives you the most power. WinForms, sure, if that's what your line of business demands, but anything modern, if you want to be in the store, this is what you want to do, WinUI. So this is all experimental right now, so you could hit that big trial button and you can play around with all of this. It says right here, experiment with us, right? So download that. Here's what happens when you download this. You get some bits. Let me show you. Oh, green screen. I'll get this fixed up with Elgato. I need to just contact the support again and see what's going on. It's not terrible. It's like every 20-30 minutes it's like, I've had too much, there's 20 bits coming across the wire. It also has to do with like the graphics card, so I'll have to check what graphics card it's rendering this on. Come back, desktop, come back. No, it's taking longer than usual to come back. All right. Sorry about that. My desktop is back. It just likes to go away from time to time. I think the card gets a little too warm, and it's just like I've had a few too many bits because it is refreshing the desktop at 60 Hertz and at over like 1080p. So it's quite a bit of bits going across the little wires. So once in a while, you just have to unplug and replug back in. Okay, so when you try that experimentation, you download. Here's what you get. Let's see, where did I put that? Repos. Okay, so this is what you get. I had the WinUI 1 version demo, and then I have the 2 demos as well. So you get the Nougat packages. These are WinUI Nougat. You can obviously go and get it from Nougat, but this one just has this stuff built in. So let me pull up this solution here. This is in VS 2019. We used to be able to, or we used to have to run VS 2019 preview versions, but since like July you don't have to do that anymore. It's baked in now, and in fact in Visual Studio you can do a new project which is WinUI. Let me see if I can pull that up. Hang on, I'm curious now. Did they actually include templates? So if I do a new project, alright, it's searching. I don't want all of that, I just want Windows. Oh, it's funny, they give you a Blazor app since it runs on Windows. Not quite. WinUI. I thought there was a template. That's a Uno platform template. All project types, no. Okay, search for WinUI. Maybe I just don't have those templates installed. Maybe it's just a, since this is experimental, I mean, it's not uncommon for them to have the templates out of the VisX, the Visual Studio extension, so I probably just don't have the templates installed. But if you do, you can just new up a new blank or a console application. So this one here is an app which gives you our UI to play with, and it's all XAML and C#. Doesn't really look any different compared to other like XAML things. Like if you have done any XAML, this will look about the same. Now it's getting really warm, so I think it's giving up a little sooner than usual. So I'll fix my green screen up. Okay, so let me go ahead and run this thing, okay? And then we'll step through some stuff. And we can also edit some stuff here and see how they work. So this is local machine, so it will run just fine on the local machine. It will not look any different from a UWP application, but this is a different game. This is using WinUI. You can choose not to see this. It points you to our docs, our feedback portal, and forums, especially since this is experimental. So it's your opportunity to kind of play around with it and just give us feedback. So I can say don't show again. Well, alright, so this is WinUI. This is Telerik UI for WinUI, and the data grid, this is the one that we had in the first release. Notice how the settings, like I can change a bunch of things. Like it already has support for like a dark theme, if that's what you want to do. It becomes too dark, I think, for Windows, or especially on my thing, my setup. So I'll keep it light. You can do a standard compact mode, but let's go to the data grid here. Hang on. All my wires are good. It's just a display adapter. Come back. Yeah, I think I just have a faulty video card at this point. Alright, let's unplug from my main laptop over onto the streaming laptop or PC. The video card, I mean, I can actually feel it. It's getting quite warm to the touch, so it's complaining for a while now. Okay, hopefully that stays. Maybe every 10-15 minutes, I'm happy to give it a little reboot, but it's just getting very warm. Okay, so back to the grid. A grid is what you expect, like so full flexibility of the grid, data binding columns, filtering, sorting as you expect, right? So these are the same type of filtering that we saw with the other one. Everything just works. I can go into some other types of grids as well. So this one shows you the grouping. This is what we did last release actually. This is stuff we already have. So you can group things based on whatever is your parameter. We can build a nice like sales dashboard. This is the kind of thing that makes me sometimes a little worried, where we have like very elaborate templates and like grids inside of grids. Like every row has a lot of data that we are binding to, so that just be a little aware, like that has an impact on the rendering. As much of the virtualization we want to do, like it's going to take us some pixels and some strength to render such a complex grid. So if you if you wanted to, you could. All right, so now it's happening, probably 5-10 minutes. Let's see how long the video card will hold up now. All right. Okay, if it keeps giving me issues, I can switch to like a web-based setup, and then we can keep going. Might be a little heavy on to run it entirely off the desktop, but we can try. All right, so you have all of the features of the grid, and this is last release. So let's look at some of the new stuff here. So all of the charts and graphs we do, it's there, and this took a lot of effort to kind of not just repackage and rebundle stuff from UWP, but just making sure we are using WinUI controls every step of the way. So even though this looks the same as WinUI or UWP, it's a different set of controls. It's actually using the different namespaces and system.ui for WinUI. So all of those graphs and charts, as you expect, are back, and you can render them. We can look at some of this code and just a wide variety of charts. I love charts and graphs. This is kind of what we are known for when you talk about like the Telerik charts and graphs. This is our bread and butter, so we take pride in the way we do these things. Scatter charts, scatter series, all of it is there. What else? And we'll look at some code here. Pie series, yeah, different types of pies, and donut charts, why not? Donuts is also a thing on our channel with Sarah and Didi around, but let's not go into donuts too much, because then we might get hungry. Okay, so all of these charts and graphs are obviously there. I also like the interactivity sometimes, like you can actually point at things and you can have like bubbles pop up and you can show different things to the user while they're interacting with the chart. So yeah, all of that is there for you to use. Maybe let's take a look at, we'll look at the gauge real quick, or the data grid real quick as well. This is the gauge, right? So everything is exactly how you feel it should be. Different types of radial gauges, and you can change the indicators, the tickers, which is like how Sarah has heard about donuts. Yeah. And I'm not seeing your latest comments yet, but I would love to highlight the fact that we are into donuts, and we can do other things with our emojis. And let's see, I don't have a donut emoji, which I should really add now. Okay, so we have linear charts, we have radial charts, all of that just works. So let's take a look at this, and we can maybe edit some of this and see how that is going to function. So if you look at the references here, like this is what is different. This is WinUI. So instead of the regular UWP, we have Microsoft.WinUI, right? So that's different. We are using the WinUI libraries. We are not using anything that is tying us to Windows 10 specific UI. We are doing Microsoft.NET Core, Universal Windows Platform. That's a Nougat package that lets us go to UWP, for WinUI to run on UWP, and then eventually we'll have this running on Win32 as well, which is an ongoing work. Even Microsoft does not have it fully running yet. So that's our references. Let's look at the examples here. This one here, let's see, we can look at gauges, charts, grids. Let's look at the grids. That should be fairly easy. So let's look at the first look here. Examples. So this should look like any other XAML, right? It should look like WPF XAML, should look like UWP XAML, but this one's user control. And if you look at the namespaces, it's WinFX and it's WinUI. Hang on a second. I don't know, maybe we're gone like an hour and a half, close to 2 hours now, and the video card is just getting too warm to hold up. So we'll see how long we can keep going. And since I unplugged and replugged, this is looking way too big. Okay, Windows, don't do that. Let's do 200. I think that's a decent size for this resolution. All right. And my mouse pointer is still enormous. No, it's a little better. Okay, so here's a grid. Let's see, we have some style resources, and we have eventually a list view, grid, right there. So that is the new Telerik WinUI grid, and it behaves like a grid. All of the features are just like what you'd expect from WPF, from UWP, except it's running on a different UI library, and that's WinUI, right? It's data bound here to, let's see what it's data bound to. Item source is selected items. So that is coming from this little thing here, product sales statistics. It's data bound to one of those collections. So yeah, that's the data grid. And again, the UI, the XAML really doesn't look different. You can obviously do visual states for VSM, visual state managers, like what happens when you click on certain things. You can manipulate the state of it, the UI part of it, just from XAML. You don't have to write code for that, so it will do all of that. Let's look at the gauges and the charts, because that's new. So if I look at the examples here, let's do gauge 1. This I think is powering the radial gauges. Yep, so that's the radial gauge. We have Telerik data viz, and then notice how everything is a template, label template. We have a segmented radial gauge that has a bar indicator, gray brush, length 40. Let's stroke red, that's the indicator segment. Let's run this and we'll see which one is what and what we can change. All right, so let's go ahead and run this. And that was the gauge, right? So the first one, we're looking at that, right? Revenue, which one is bound to revenue? Now let me make this smaller so I can pull them side by side. Maybe a little bigger. Yeah, there we go. So we have expenses, revenue, percent target. All right, expense percent. This one here, text block. I'm trying to understand what is what here. This is the second. Oh, right here it says like this is the expenses percent target. So that clearly is this one, right? But then we have 3 different versions of this. This one is expenses percentage of target. Let's look at this one here. So we have binding size, font size, static resources, gray 35 brush. So it's using a brush to paint the actual radial gauge and also the text on it, right? That's the foreground. And we have tick step of 20. So like we have 20, 40, 60. So if we, let's stop this and let's change a few things. Let's do 10. Vertical alignment, stretch, label radius scale. Alright, what other things we can change? We have a static resource. Can we go to the definition? No, that's not what we want. This is the whole, like, it's showing us the object behind it. Alright, we have, oh, it's right here. So let's use a different brush. We can, so those foreground brushes are right here. Change that up a little bit, and let's run this again. It's building. You see that this little thing here, it's still building. And I hit start with debugging, so it's loading up all the debug symbols and all of the in-memory things so I can debug through it, which I didn't have to. I'm not debugging. I just want to see it work. Good time to have this while it's building. Come back desktop. Oh, and the build finished. Yeah, come back desktop, come quick. There. Okay, build finished, and we have the app. So I did some voodoo magic, like I'm pulling up a different thing while the screen was off for a second, but no, it's the same build. Okay. So we changed the ticks. If you can see really close, like the ticks are down to a 10. And we're using a different like color just to kind of make it stand out a little bit more. So it's just Xaml, but you are coding this on a different canvas on WinUI. So play around with this. This whole app is there, and we give you all the source code for it. Play around with this. If you are building WinUI apps, this is a place to kind of experiment with us and see how that's working out for you. Let me show you some Xamarin stuff, because I think I bailed out of the mobile stuff too quickly. I want to show you some more Xamarin stuff. Okay. Get my VM out of the way. Alright. Let's go back to Xamarin. Okay, so let's look at what's new. Yep. Come on, load up the page. Okay, there we go. So these are some of the things that are new for this release, and I wanted to kind of dive into some of the UI that's new and how we are rendering it and what we can do with it. So we talked about the Blazor bindings for a long time, and that's fun. Customizing the calendar view, the PDF search. We talked about Android X support. This is nice because you don't have to keep using the older Android support libraries anymore. XLS, which is an older like Excel 97 to Excel 2003 binary file format, because the modern Office now uses Open Office XML. And we talked about the demos. There are like 4 brand new demos that are out in the stores that you can use. That's super nice. So let's dive into this one a little bit more and look at some code. And again, if you just hit the try button or if you download the latest bits, you will see the stuff that I'm talking about here. So let's pull up this solution. Like if you download that, it shows up as a folder called QSF, and in fact I'll show you what it does look like. When you download, we give you either an exe for Windows or a DMG if you're on a Mac, and then under your documents progress, this is kind of where it shows up. So let me make that bigger. You see that? So everything goes under here. This is a brand new machine for me, so I don't have the older releases, which if you do care for some reason you want to go back versions, it's all up there. The version history is up there. If you're doing things in Nougat, then you can go back, or in your downloads directory on Telerik.com, you can go back to older releases, but I suggest you don't, because you want to be forward facing. You want to use the latest and greatest stuff, right? So that's where it is, and you will notice that we give you a bunch of different things. There are binaries. These are actually the DLLs. There are examples. There's the QSF. That's the one you want to look at because it has much of the code, so you can play around with this UI. And this is exactly the app that is powering the example app that you see in the store. So if you have an iOS or Android device, you can pull up the store and you can look for Telerik on the iOS store, and that's the app you're going to see. So let's take a look at this app. More chickens. You saw me in a button-up black shirt while I was doing the webinar, so this is me kind of escaping the corporate life and putting my hat back on, escaping the corporate chickens. Okay, let's look at some more stuff here. So the combo box, that is great. PDF. Let's look at the combo box. I'm fond of how we did some things here. Let me close down a few files here. So there we go. So let's take a look at, let's run this, and I want to break down some code and see how things are working. All right. This, by the way, is the same app you're going to see in stores, right? So you don't need to install any of the previews. You can just like take a look at this app, and like I mentioned, like the sample apps, the other sample apps, they're all right here. So if you end up on the first sample, which is the Telerik UI for Xamarin Examples app, you have a pointer to these other 4 apps, which they're beautiful, beautiful apps. They're full-featured apps. They use Azure, they use AI services, they use GitHub Actions, I think, and then they're kind of as full-featured as a real app can be. So it's a great way to kind of look at the code base, just if you want to, kind of how things are organized. I think one of them uses the built-in MVVM framework that's within WinForms. So one of them might use the MVVM cross if you want to use commands. So for me, it's great to just be able to just look at code and just read some code for a full-featured app that's out there. All right, let's look at the combo box. Here, this should be fairly easy. So this is just 3 drop-downs. So this we have a list of tech for the skills. Then we have a list of job types, and then we have times posted, which also seems to be like a string. So how are we rendering this view? So the way to drill down these examples is, it's a big solution. So for the first time when you're doing a build, it's going to take a minute, but from that point forward, it's going to be fairly fast. So we have helpers, we have converters, we have behaviors, all kinds of good stuff. But what you want to really look at are the views and the view models, and then these examples here. So they're nicely broken out based on whatever it is that you are interested to look into. This one here is the combo box, and take a look at how this is broken up. You have configuration, customization, and first look. They correspond exactly to these three things: first look, customization, configuration, right? Let's look at first look. So in here is my first look, and this one has a view model. Let's take a look at what we're doing here. We have a thing called skills, right? This.skills. Where is skills defined? It's an observable collection of strings. Oh, so it doesn't actually have a definition anywhere else. It's just literally is a collection of strings. So we didn't care to declare this anywhere else. So we have Xamarin, Blazor, WPF, OpenEdge, Convey, all kinds of good stuff. Then we have job types, and we have times. Okay, so these are not really times. These are just like strings. That's an observable collection. So we have three collections for skills, job types, and times, right? And these are the definitions of those three properties. Okay, that's it. And then we have things for like selected index, and this one is using commands. So let's walk through some of this stuff and see how this might be used. So that's my view model, right? Let's take a look at the actual view, and then we'll look at if the code behind is doing anything, which I doubt it is. So this is just initializing the component, and it's part of content view, which is obviously Xamarin Forms. So nothing to see, nothing to look here. This is where it's all happening, right? So we have content view, we have a bunch of resources, and then it's all organized in a grid, which has rows and columns, which this one doesn't have too many rows and columns. It's just a stack layout inside the first row that has the border, label, job search, image source. What is this image doing? Oh, it's probably just this one here. That's just the stack layout. And then this is the second row of that data grid, right? So we have the rad combo box. This one's item source is bound to skills, right? Which is this one, right? Literally just a collection of strings. And the properties of this are selected index, mode of binding is two-way, placeholder select skills. So the placeholder is nice because this is what lets us do things like select the skills, like this is the text. Let's actually try switching some things up and see how they look. Placeholder is select skills, selection mode is multiple, so I can choose multiple things at once. Is drop down closed on selection is false. Okay, so we can change that, margin, and so on. All right, so let's go ahead and stop this, and let's take a look at what this is doing. Let's change it up. Yeah, let's say select your skills. So I'm changing the placeholder and maybe put an exclamation mark. Let's do selection mode single. Okay. Is drop down closed on selection, which is pretty apparent what that property would do, right? So let's make it true. Let's just say you do know one thing and one thing only, and that's all the skills you have to go find a job. And we have a style class. We can let that be. What is this doing? Selected index is binding selected skill index, mode is two-way. Okay, what is that? That's my collection of skills. And then we have, oh, it's an integer that's returning this, and we are using the search job command button. Okay, so what it's doing here is change can execute. So we're literally using the command property on the selected index to raise which one is it that is being raised. put a breakpoint there, okay, and just see how it's being set. Let's run this. Oh, Beacon9 is asking me to hydrate. Thank you for taking care of streamers. This is Coke Zero. It's my caffeine outside of the morning cups of coffee. Probably not the best for you, but I don't overdo it. So in moderation, I think it's okay. There are lots of fans of Coke Zero. Time for us to chat and hydrate too. Yes, please get hydration, everyone. Alright, so let's go back to the combo box, and we changed up a few things, right? And that did not change. Huh, okay, we'll take a look. Coke Zero all the way, thank you. Alright, so what did we do? Okay, so value is 0, so since we did not select anything, oh, the 0 is the first one, so it says 0-based index. Let it go, okay. So now, you saw a couple of things that are different. This is not closing, because we changed that behavior, and this is bad, because now we can't select anything else, and this is going to be still -1, because we chose the same thing. Yeah, and now it's going to crash because it's gotten out of index. Okay. So it didn't pick up this. So essentially the multiple mode really does go well with this being false, because then if you close it, then you can't choose anything else. Right? But I'm surprised that it didn't pick up this placeholder. What happened to that? Is it being cached? I can uninstall and reinstall it. What do you know? Right? I'm surprised that it didn't pick it up. So far my video card is holding up for like 20 minutes now. I'm impressed. It is hot to touch. Come on, build Visual Studio. Oh, I do have an ask for anyone that's watching. There's something we are looking at actively for .NET MAUI. I want to get your feel of if that's something people are interested in. Okay, so it did pick it up now. Probably could have been just cached. So you get to see how you can modify the behavior of the combo box. It's fairly easy to data bind and work with that. Let's see, what else do we have here? Is editable. This one's the other combo box. Let's try to the job types. Yeah, this one's try to the times. This one's a red button. Okay, a question I get a lot, like, why should I use a button from Telerik when there is a button in Xamarin Forms? Let me pull back my music a little bit. Based on which track it is playing, sometimes it gets a little too loud in my ear, because I'm hearing the same thing that you all are hearing. Okay, so why should you use a Telerik button? Because it is loaded with features that you do not have in the regular button. So you don't have to use it, but if you are looking for stuff like this, corner radius, if you want to have a background image on the button, you can't do that with the default Xamarin Forms button. So this one is a button on steroids. Works really well. Okay, so I probably have about 15 more minutes before we said we don't have to stop right away, but I mean, I am getting a little hungry. My lunch was light. Let me show you the other thing, and then I'm going to show you a preview of what the UI can look like. One more way of rendering the UI. We looked at Blazor, and this is Xamarin Forms, but I'll show you the MVU way, and then if you folks have interest, we are actively looking at this to see if we want to support this way of building it. So let's look at, and the green screen is here, thank you. I was waiting for that. Let's look at customization, and let's give it a reboot. All right. Come back, desktop. Give it a second. I was just opening up the customization demo. It's getting late for you, Ivana. It's what time is it? Let me check. It is 9:14 p.m. for you, and you're still around. Thank you for that. Okay. Did I lose the video card and my desktop entirely? No, just wake up. Okay. I need you for like 10 more minutes, please. My FOMO is larger than my laptop needing a refresh. Thank you for that. It is not liking me at all. Okay, last try, and then we'll switch to something else of a web-based stream. Okay, there, it might come back. There, yeah. Jeez, okay. Technology doesn't always want to work with you. All right, the last thing I was going to show you is this customization example that I think is really beautiful. This is the example that is driving let's see, it's this next one here, this one here. This example here, when I do a drop down here, take a look at how beautiful this is, and I am just like super stoked as how elegantly this is done. Like this little circle, like we don't have a little circle UI component, but we are utilizing what's called the rad border, and we are just making the corner radius so small that it looks like a little red dot or a blue or a yellow dot, and that is powered all through here. So if I go down here, no, that's not the Xaml customization example. Xaml. Yep, see, that's the right combo box, right? And it is bound to that colors thing, which is a collection right here. Where are my colors? And the colors are somewhere. Are they defined in the view model? Yeah, the colors are right here. So blue, yellow, pink, orange, gray, right? And then we take some XAML on top of it. We are binding it to the colors. So the actual color property of that comes out as a string, right? Oh no, those are actually colors, but they're of the type string. But when we can utilize that string to actually make it pick up the system.color, which is beautiful. So here we have the right combo box, and the item template is what controls what that combo box looks like, and it's a stack layout that is horizontally oriented. So you see that this is a stack layout which is rendering the border and then the text next to it. So it's a horizontal layout, but in here the first thing is a rad border, and the background color of the rad border is the dot, which is the actual color name. So it just picks it up and it's beautiful. The width and the height, this is what makes it a perfect circle, and then the corner radius is 7. All right, one last thing to show and then we should be done for this stream. one last thing, I promise. Right, so this is all working. The thing I wanted to show you was, in case you folks are interested, tell us if you want us to do stuff like this. So this is a new UI library called Comet, right? Let me show you if I can do Comet.NET UI. No, not that, this one here. So this is using a completely different way of rendering Xamarin and Xamarin Forms, and this is using the MVU pattern with C#. So this is not MVVM. We have a model which is more like the state of the application, and then the model is driving the UI view, and the UI view has bindings, and then anything changes on the UI, we want to go back and update the model, and that reflects on the UI in a circular way. So this is a quick little example that is using MVU. It does not have Xamarin Forms in it, but it does use the renderers that are inside of Xamarin Forms. This is what is being considered for .NET MAUI. So if I go ahead and run this thing, you will see what you expect by this little piece of code. Where is my simulator? There. All right. So if I increment, obviously it goes up, right? And all of this UI, just this text and this button, all of this is done in C#. There is no XAML involved in here, right? And that's the beauty of it. So you use just comment, and then you can like this or you can not like it. It's up to you. But this is essentially using C# to build the visual tree. This is the state of the application, the counter that you increment, and then this is the body, this is the view. Notice this is not the Xamarin Forms view content page. This is a different type of view that is painted by that Comet library. And then here V stack essentially means a vertical stack. You can also have a H stack if you want to stack things horizontally. Then we have a text property that is bound to the value of that count property, which is the state, which is an integer. And then we have some font sizes, colors that don't matter. But the button, when you hit the button, it's a delegate function that upgrades or updates the value of the count by by 1, right? And that's all the button needs to do. Since the text is automatically bound to that count property, we see the increment, the counter go up. So what I'm trying to say is this is a new way of rendering stuff for Xamarin. It's not exactly Xamarin Forms, but it is using the same renderers as we see with Xamarin Forms. So essentially the renderers that we had, they are being abstracted out into what's called like the universal type renderers, and then Blazor, and then Comet, and then Xamarin Forms, they will all end up using the same renderers under the covers. So that's where you see the power of something like Xamarin Forms. So let us know how you feel about this. Let me know. You know how to get hold of me, and I will convey it to our engineering team. So if this is one way you want to render your UI, we can make our UI work with a pattern like this. It'll take some work, but again, this is not available until like next June or so. All right, so we have green screens, and I think I'm at the end of what we wanted to show. I can try bringing it back one time, but I don't have any more code to write. You see how the video card works. Like for the first hour and a half, it was fine, and then it starts slowly heating up, and it's like, I'm getting tired. Oh, it's back. Okay, so what I'm trying to say is this was a big release, right? So again, everything we did is up here on Telerik.com. This is a great blog post to start, this one here, that shows you exactly what's new in Telerik and Kenda UI combined. So we talked about all things web on Monday. We talked about all things Kenda UI, React, and Vue on Tuesday. We did Wednesday was for Angular and jQuery, and then coming up tomorrow we are going to talk about all the things that are where are they? Right here. All the reporting and testing solutions and JustMock. So that's coming up tomorrow at 11 Eastern. We'll do a webinar with 3 of us, and then we'll come down into Twitch and do 2 more hours of this. So I want to thank all of you for joining and staying on here with me while I had like desktop connectivity issues, but I love you all. We love you all. Thank you for using our stuff if you are using it, And if you are new, hopefully you see the value that we can bring with our UI components to help you be more successful, right?
I love you.
Yeah, digital I love you, which means we're getting close to being done here. And let's see, we can do a quick raid. Why not? Since I see some of our friends are out there. So what I might do is, if you folks want to hang around, I will go ahead and let's see. I see Insta Fluff is on and Bald Bearded guy is on. Let's go to Bald Bearded Builder. Yeah, I got a green screen. I don't care about that. I can see what I'm doing here. All right, there you go. So that's it from me, folks. Thank you so much, and we shall see you tomorrow. Okay, bye-bye.